What if every moment of your day was an open book, but not to you? Where you go, who you see, what you buy, what you feel, all of it quietly recorded, reviewed, stored, and judged. Not because you agreed to it, but because someone else decided they have a right to know. It starts so small you barely notice it. A casual question: Where are you? A light check in: Who was that on the phone? A passing remark about something you bought. At first, you answer without thinking, but those moments slowly start to add up. The questions stop being occasional and start becoming constant. And then they stop being questions altogether, and they turn into checkpoints that you are expected to clear. Before long, your movements are managed, your devices are scanned, your bank account is monitored, your emotions are examined like evidence in a case you didn't know you were in. You stop acting on instinct and start acting on expectation. Not yours, but theirs. This is not connection and this is not closeness. This is surveillance, the slow, strategic stripping away of privacy until every corner of your life is lit up for someone else's inspection. Today, we're going to break down the control tactic of surveillance and monitoring, one of the most invasive tactics in the blueprint of family violence against men. We'll explore how it begins under the cover of care, how it expands until there's no corner left untouched, and how it leaves you second guessing even the most private parts of your life. We'll cover four key ways this tactic is carried out: tracking movement, device snooping, financial surveillance, and emotional surveillance, and how each one works to keep you under constant watch. Surveillance and monitoring in an abusive relationship is not about keeping you safe, it's about control. It works by eroding your right to privacy in small, almost invisible steps until you accept that being watched is simply a part of daily life. It begins with information gathering disguised as care. Questions about where you are, who you spoke to, and why you took longer than expected are all framed as curiosity or concern. You answer them because you want to keep the peace, because it feels easier than challenging the tone behind them. Over time, the pattern shifts. These are no longer occasional questions, they are ongoing checkpoints you're expected to pass. In this dynamic, surveillance goes far beyond knowing your location. It becomes a way to shape and limit your choices. Your messages are read, your call logs are checked, your browsing history is reviewed, your purchases are questioned, even your emotional state is assessed and reinterpreted by someone else. And every gap in visibility is treated as suspicion, as if privacy itself is a sign of wrongdoing. This constant oversight changes the way you live. You begin to offer details before they are asked for. You anticipate the interrogation that might follow a deviation from routine. You plan your day around avoiding suspicion rather than pursuing your own needs. Surveillance shifts the balance of power. Every movement, purchase, or private thought is filtered through the idea that it belongs to them to see, approve, or challenge. For many men, this tactic is especially difficult to name because of how it is normalized. Cultural scripts frame certain forms of monitoring as signs of love or proof of commitment. Checking in is presented as respectful. Sharing your location is painted as modern intimacy. Being transparent about spending is framed as responsible partnership. But when these acts are one sided, and when the information is used to control rather than connect, it becomes something far more dangerous. Surveillance is not only about gathering information, it's about owning access. It is about sending the message that there is no part of your life they do not have the right to enter. And once that belief takes hold, the absence of privacy becomes normal, even though it is anything but. Let's now take a look at 4 ways this tactic is carried out. The first way you are monitored is through tracking movement. Tracking movement is when technology is used to follow your physical location in real time. GPS apps, location sharing, smart devices, even so called safety features on your car, all of these become tools to map your movements, check your routes, and hold you accountable for being exactly where they expect you to be. It usually starts out under the guise of care. They might suggest sharing locations so we both know we're safe. It feels mutual at first, like modern expressions of trust, but gradually the information stops being used for connection and, and starts being used for interrogation. Your location history becomes a way to question why you took a different route home, why you stayed at the shops for 20 minutes longer, and why you were at that place you did not mention earlier. The monitoring doesn't just cover your moments away. Home security cameras, smart doorbells, even activity logs from shared devices can be checked to see when you left, when you returned, and what you did in between. A short stop at the way home might lead to an argument. A moment sitting in the driveway before coming inside might be treated as evidence of you avoiding them. Over time, this reshapes your behavior. You start planning your day so it will look clean on the tracking history. You avoid spontaneous detours. You worry about even small changes to routine because you know they will be questioned. The control is the fact that you are always aware of being observed, and that awareness changes the choices you get to make. The second way you are monitored is through device snooping. Device snooping is when your phone, laptop, tablet, or cloud accounts are accessed without your consent. It's rarely framed as hacking or intrusion. Instead, it's justified under excuses like shared ownership or concern or needing to know the truth. But in reality, it's a direct violation of your privacy and autonomy. It often begins quietly. They might glance over your shoulder when you're texting or casually pick up your phone while you're in another room. Later, you might notice that details from private conversations are being quoted back to you, but distorted or pulled out of context. Over time, this access becomes normalized. Your devices are treated as open books, not because you offered, but because they claimed the right to look. The methods can escalate. They might go through your browsing history, review saved passwords, or exploit technical skills to comb through files and account activity. Sometimes they hint at evidence that they've so called found, without ever presenting anything concrete, just to unsettle you and keep you guessing about what they think they know. The result is constant pressure. You begin monitoring your own digital behavior, even when you've done nothing wrong, because you know anything could be twisted and used against you. The damage isn't just the loss of privacy, it's the way the intrusion reshapes your sense of safety in your own devices, your own home, your own thoughts. Every message you write, every search you make, every file you save, you start wondering how it can be interpreted if taken out of context. It turns daily communication into an ongoing risk of assessment. The third way you are monitored is through financial surveillance. Financial surveillance is when every aspect of your spending is monitored, criticized, or controlled, not for genuine shared budget, but as a way to exert power. It's often presented as just keeping track or being responsible with money. But the scrutiny is one sided. Your purchases are examined in detail while theirs is treated as justified or left entirely unchecked. It often begins subtly. They might ask what you spent on lunch or why a certain amount came out of the account. Over time, these questions shift from curiosity to an interrogation. Minor purchases, such as a coffee or a snack, a small gift for yourself, are reframed as irresponsible and selfish. You begin to anticipate the criticism and preemptively explain yourself, even when you've done nothing wrong. Technology can make this even easier for them. They might use shared credit cards, joint banking apps, or budgeting tools, but only as a way to track your transactions. The rules are never applied equally. They might spend freely on themselves, clothing, hobbies, dining out, but any spending you do is treated as indulgent or wasteful. Over time, the effect is corrosive. You begin to feel guilty for meeting your own needs. You might even start asking permission for tiny purchases, not because you can't afford them, but because you've been trained to see your financial independence as a problem. The control here isn't really about the money, it's about access, freedom, and self determination. By making you justify every expense, they send the message that your independence, financial or otherwise, is subject to their approval. The fourth way you're monitored is through emotional surveillance. Emotional surveillance is when your feelings are no longer yours to define, own, or express freely. Sounds funny, but in this dynamic, your emotional state is constantly observed, interpreted, and redefined by your partner, often in ways that serve their narrative and not the truth. It's not about empathy or connection, it's about control over your perception of your inner world. This tactic often begins with casual observations. You seem upset, or you're in a mood today. And at first, it might seem like they're simply checking in. But over time, these comments evolve into corrections and assertions. They stop asking you how you feel and start telling you how you're feeling. You're angry, you're sulking, you're being dramatic. Your own words are overridden, and their interpretation of your state becomes the truth in the relationship. And the thing that hurts is that their interpretation is so far from the truth because you might be calm, you might not be sulking, and you might just be expressing your truth. The monitoring is not passive, it's active policing. They might listen to your work calls and then criticize your tone afterwards, or they might recast calmness as aggression until you end up reacting and then, therefore, giving them proof that their version was right all along. The more you push back, the more they double down, framing your resistance to their interpretation of your emotions as confirmation of their claims. Over time, you actually start to stop trusting your own read on your own emotions because it feels like they've been hijacked. The effect is profound. Your privacy is no longer just about location or your devices, it's about the most intimate territory you have, your own mind. When your emotions are constantly reinterpreted, critiqued, and reframed, you start to second guess yourself. You might even begin to adopt their labels, slowly losing your own ability to know what you truly feel without their input. For men, surveillance and monitoring often hides in plain sight because it is cloaked in social norms and gender expectations. Many of us grow up hearing phrases like happy wife, happy life, watching sitcoms where the husband is checking in with his wife as a running joke. The idea that a man should be trackable, accountable, and transparent at all times is normalized, even celebrated as proof of loyalty or respect. If a man says he has to check in with his wife, it's met with knowing laughs, as if it's just part of the natural order. But if the roles were reversed and a woman said she had to get permission for her every move, the reaction would be visceral, a collective recognition that something is deeply wrong. That double standard allows surveillance against men to be minimized, excused, and even encouraged under the guise of love, safety, and responsibility. This makes it difficult to name the abuse when it's happening. You can find yourself justifying it. She just worries. She likes to know where I am. We share everything. And because these patterns often start small, a casual question here, a calendar sync there, you adapt without realizing the ground beneath you has shifted. By the time it has escalated to constant location tracking, device snooping, financial audits, or emotional policing, the oversight by that point feels routine. What's most insidious is how it shapes your sense of self. Begin to live as if someone is always looking over your shoulder, even when they're not, and even in your most private moments. You self censor. You preemptively explain your actions when you're by yourself. You shape your movements to avoid interrogation. Privacy starts to feel selfish. Independence starts to feel like disloyalty. And eventually, you are no longer just monitored, you're actively managed. Surveillance also warps your relationship with the truth. When false accusations, gaslighting, or outright lies are thrown at you, the fact that your life is constantly monitored makes those claims destabilizing. You can find yourself wondering, maybe I did and forgot. Maybe I misunderstood because she knows where you are and what you're doing every minute of the day. And in the worst cases, when threats are made, your mind turns to darker questions. What evidence has she planted? That's the kind of doubt that seeps deeply in, not just into your trust in her, but into your trust in yourself. Surveillance and monitoring are not signs of love, connection, or safety. They are tools of control. designed to erode your privacy, undermine your independence, and make you doubt your own reality. Whether it's through location tracking, device snooping, financial scrutiny, or emotional policing, the goal is the same: to keep you under watch, to make your movements predictable, and to keep the balance of power tilted in their favor. When every message you send, every kilometer you travel, every emotion you express is subject to review, you don't live freely. You stop making choices for yourself. You stop trusting your instincts. The cost of constant oversight isn't your privacy, it's your agency, your dignity, and your sense of self. No one has a right to own your time, your movements, your emotions, or your thoughts. If you recognize these patterns in your life, know this: being monitored is not the price of love. It's a sign that your freedom is being replaced with permission and your relationship has crossed into control. This is Stand Again, lived experience platform for male survivors of family violence. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Your voice might just help another man find his. If you're looking for one on one support, you can book coaching with a member of the Stand Again team. Simply visit standagain.com.au, where you will also find grounded information on surviving and recovering from family violence as a man. As always, remember that no matter how many times you've been knocked down, you can stand again.